So it's not for kids.
Let me cook. My stomach, I can hear it gurgling.
You're gonna do a live tootin'?
I don't think the sound would actually come out all that great if I tried.
You put your butt up against the microphone, right?
I feel like I'm in silent but deadly type.
Do you have a rolling chair or do you have like a fixed chair?
It rolls.
Can you imagine if like you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this bit where I'm gonna put my butt up against the microphone and then, like let out this fart that I have building up, and then like you like the chair like falls over and you fucking die? Can you imagine? Like that's how you died.
I died because the microphone just jammed itself up my anus. That's what killed me.
And then you fall down. You have the microphone in your butt, and you have like your neck just snap. Like the worst part is like they wouldn't just be like, "Oh, rest in peace, Kenny," or "Rest in peace, Tom. He loved microphones and farts, and he hated falling and breaking his neck." Like they wouldn't even know. They would like come into the office and be like, "What happened here?" See, why is he facing away from, like, we need to get a forensics expert in here. Was this a murder?
I could see how like Old Boy has like fucked up your mind, because I thought the joke you were going to go for was like, imagine you get up on your rolling chair to fart into the microphone and it like blasts you off, like the chair goes rolling across the floor. Like that's pretty good too. Instead, it's like I have to fall over and die for some reason.
Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
And I'm your other host, Tom Bowers. Today, the feature topic is Rulebooks. Do you ever read them? I don't. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about some of the things we've been playing recently. Kenny?
Tom, you need to chill out, okay?
Okay.
The energy you're bringing is too hype, okay?
All right, I'm sorry.
Let's take it to NPR, okay?
Yeah, I'm like really warm right now, so.
Yeah, you're really warm. We're going to play Stay Cool.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Hey, we're playing Stay Cool from 2019. This is from Julien, Sentis, and published by Le Scorpion Masqué. Stay Cool. Stay Cool is a real-time game about giving yourself an ulcer. The name itself is almost insulting, but all that said, it may sound like I'm pretty cool on this one, but I actually think it's a pretty decent game. It's just a game I never want to play again. So what you're doing in Stay Cool is you have one person on your left yelling questions into your face, and you have another person on your right yelling a different question into your face that you have to respond to with a word that you form out of these like letter cubes. And so you have to verbally respond to the question on your left while forming the answer to the question on your right. And the questions are formulated so that they're really easy for everybody that's watching you, but really, really hard if you're stressed out and having to do two things at the same time. An example is, say in alphabetical order, the words 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you would go, okay. What even is that? 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You would go 4, 1, 3, 2. I think that's correct. So like, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah, but it takes you a second.
Like some are as simple as like, what year were you born? Except you're so stressed out that, like, for example, I responded September. And everybody around the table makes fun of you. That's the whole game. So you as a player never want to actually be playing the game. You just want to watch everybody else suffer through their trials. And when it gets to your turn, you're like, oh no, it's my turn again. And you just have two people yelling at you while you fail to do like basic tasks. That's the whole premise of Stay Cool. If that sounds like a hoot, it sounds like your game, then by all means. And again, I think it's really well designed. It's like, it's nicely calibrated. The premise is really delivered on. Like the whole game's about keeping your cool, and clearly you can't. But like Hachi Machi, I never want to play this ever again. To me, this is just like, this is not the reason I play board games, at least. Like I don't play games to like live an experience that's more stressful than real life.
I feel like I struggle with real-time games in general, but I like the idea of a game where the goal of the game is to have all of your friends make fun of you. I think like I'm starting to lean into and appreciate those games more and more. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like real-time elements, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't like the busyness of it.
Yeah, it's so busy. That was Stay Cool from 2019.
Now, I've played a completely different style of game, I suppose. I could not come up with a good segue for it, and that is Linko.
You couldn't link this one together with the previous game?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out any good link. There's like nothing there. Yeah. Anyway, Linko from 2014. This designed by the famous duo Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling, published by AMIGO. You already talked about this not even that long ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking about it now because I got a chance to play it after we talked about it. And I thought it was pretty good.
Where is it on the water scale?
This is like one of the better basic LaCroix flavors. So we're not into the LaCroix. What are they called where they have like two flavors?
Oh, curate.
Yeah. So the LaCroix curate are like, would you agree they're a tier above the 12-pack LaCroix?
Yes and no. They're kind of like specialty pizzas, right? Like sometimes you just want the pure thing. But I think in a small injection, they are definitely a tier above.
Linko is like LaCroix key lime, where it's like, it's one of the better 12-pack flavors, but it's not curate level. It has not ascended to the tall 12-ounce can.
Okay.
You know, the journey of 100 plays of any given game starts with the first play, and that's where we're at with Linko. So this is one that I could see it becoming more and more interesting the more it got played. I'd be happy for you to bring it basically as the current filler if you're still riding the hype train.
Yeah, I definitely am very much riding the high of Linko right now. How did you feel it compared to Scout? I'd say that they're pretty different, but
I keep losing at Scout to Helena, so I'm kind of over it at this point.
My enjoyment of this game is directly correlated to my win rate.
Yeah, exactly. No, real talk though, I think Scout is a really good game. I think like I definitely don't know everything there is to know about Scout. Like I'm still learning things with it, but the sort of like the rate at which I'm learning how it plays, it has slowed down. Like I'm reaching the top of like that Dunning-Kruger curve or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like I've learned a lot already. So now whatever,
you're like hitting the maximum level of how dumb you can be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't quite understand where the Dunning-Kruger curve comes into play.
Right. Forget Dunning-Kruger. I'm just
gonna lean into it though because it's funny.
If learning a new game is like a logarithmic curve, it's like I feel like I'm starting to see the beginning of the plateau with Scout.
Sometimes I know we're cooking, you know? This is one of those moments.
I mean, like, and that's the irony is that I might be looking at what I think is a plateau, and it's actually the beginning of like my descent into the Dunning-Kruger Valley.
The metatextual Tom thinking he knows what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. Like,
yeah. You had an interesting experience playing this because you played it with a bunch of the regular nerds as opposed to your family for once.
There was definitely more thinking along the lines of what I think. And knowing that I lost so many of those previous games, I think we might be overthinking it.
Oh, for sure.
Because we were definitely in like damage mitigation mode. How can I preserve the cards in front of me and remove the cards in front of other people? Whereas like the rest of my family was like, go, 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 just put shit down. You know, some things are going to stick and some won't. I think that over carefulness resulted in a pretty balanced game for us, but also a longer game and one where I feel like one of us probably could have gone faster, but we just couldn't see that line of play.
I think it's interesting because like I'm pretty sure we were all playing it like really badly, but we all thought we were playing it really good.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we're so smart.
Yeah.
We're like thinking about all these things. I don't know. I think both ways of playing were fun, though. And I still continue to really enjoy this one. So
yeah, it's good.
That was Linko from 2014. Tom, can you Can you guess what this next game is? I'm going to put a piece on question mark, and I'm going to put another piece on object, and then another piece on happy.
I don't know. It's
Come on, play with me in this space, Tom. Just yes and me. Holy shit.
I can't quite imagine the concept of what you're talking about.
Oh, you got it. I'm talking about the game Concept from 2013, designed by Gaëtan Beaujannot and Alain Rivollet from Repos Production. There's some French names for you.
Hey.
Concept is a 20 question style figure it out party game where you have a big board with a bunch of different icons and you have a key for those icons. You might have a happy face, and the happy face means joy, positive thing, or, things going in an upward trajectory. And then you might have a picture of a sun, and the sun is like summer, warm weather, sun. That's what it signifies. And all you have to convey information are all these different icons, and it's up to you how you use them. But then you get a prompt of varying difficulties. It might say something like the movie Shrek, or the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And then you have to try to communicate that object or phrase via all these icons by placing different little cubes and shapes on top of these icons. You can't say anything. You can't gesture. You just have to use those icons to signify what it is. They give you a pretty big repertoire of things to use. Our group loves playing this game. We love playing it as an opener for the night or in between two big games. And I really, really enjoyed this game at first, but it kind of had the Splendor effect where even though it's a great game, I'm just sick and tired of playing it because, I have a low patience threshold for coming back to games, much, much lower than you and a lot of the other folks in the game. And so if I feel like a game has been explored, I'm just way more amped to play something that we haven't explored as much. And so seeing Concept hit the table exhausts me. But I think that's very much just because of how much we played it. I still think it's an excellent game.
It definitely can overstay its welcome kind of easily. The best way I think I've heard it described, and I'm pretty sure I should credit Helena for this, is like it's charades for introverts.
Yeah, that's a really good description. You don't have to do the movements. You don't have to be really put on the spot. You kind of just provide the hints on the board.
I think I personally kind of prefer charades, but you know what? I think I'm extroverted. It's kind of been a minute. I think even for you. So it's like at this point, it's like, might as well like break it out again. Yeah,
but see, even if it's been a minute for me, I'm still like, I don't want to play this. So I think I'm just a brat.
Well, I couldn't think of like a fitting lyric from that CD to say. So,
yeah, that was Concept from 2013.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good concept for a game. I'm here all week.
I'm really curious about this next game, Tom, because you just sent a picture to us of what can only be described as like bejeweled on a board.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a true classic, a really old game. If you know what this game is, you must be an old person, as my kids like to say, because it's from 2007, which is really old. If you were born in 2007, you have the legal right to vote if you were born before whatever date you're listening to this. I'm talking about Gemlok from 2007, designed by Donald Meyer, published by Pywacket LLC. Gemlok. It's a board with like a bunch of gems with different numbers, and in the center are all of the highest valued gems. And then there's kind of these like spirally circles that spread out with lower and lower numbers. Players start off with a bunch of pegs on one side of the board, one edge of the board. You can kind of set them up wherever you want. And then you roll dice to determine how your pegs are allowed to move, but you can orient the pattern of movement in any direction you want. You just can't reflect the pattern. So it's a literal roll and move game, but it's not like rolling and moving in a circular around the board like Talisman or Monopoly. It's It's almost chess-like in a very checkers-like way, where it's like,
my God.
yeah, it's just like the little bit of input randomness as each turn, but it leads to something that feels like thinkier than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. I don't think that the way it plays is really like ultra strategic overall, but there does seem to be like an emergent amount of strategy. It's like a matter of positioning and sort of playing the odds of the die faces and coordinating your movements. Because the wrinkle in this that makes it interesting is that if you bump one of your own pieces, you can push the piece you bumped. So, if you use the dice to run into one of your pieces, you can move that piece up to 3 tiles away, including diagonal movement. And you can mix up the movement. It's not like push it in a straight line. So you're actually like highly incentivized to run into your own pegs because you get a lot more control over where it lands, but you can't create like a cascade of bumping. So you only get this one bump.
It just happens once.
Yeah, but you can do it to your opponents as well. Unless the die face has rolled and the face says Gemlok, then you flip the peg over and that peg is immovable from that point forward. I was very curious when I saw this box, and I was pleasantly surprised by its playability. I'd be curious to see like a heat map of this to show me like what the kind of like the likelihood is of the spaces that you can land on with the way these dice roll out.
Well, there's a pretty big Gemlok community. People are always talking about Gemlok, so they probably mapped out the heat map of
they got it figured
different
out.
Spaces.
I can't go without mentioning this because it like really cracks me up as something that I would do. Rest in peace to this Board Game Geek user, Sanchezia, who posted in 2011 saying the pattern on their Gemlok dice is rubbing off. They talked to ChessX about a custom design, and it turns out that there's a minimum, you have to order an entire block of dice. So it would cost them $120 plus shipping. And that's in 2011. So 2011 custom Gemlok dice, but they have to order a minimum of 10 sets of dice. And so they post in the forum saying, is anyone interested in a set of custom dice? If I can get at least 7 people to sign in.
Did they get any responses?
The thread has no replies. It's so tragic.
Rip.
So, that's why we're here, right? To spread the word. If you're out there, go to the Gemlok threads, get on the forums and say, hey, I'll take you up on that custom engraved ChessX dice.
That was Gemlok from 2007.
100 games to play before you die.
All right, Kenny, it's time for that part of the podcast, the most hyped part of the podcast that we like to talk about. That's games that you need to play before you turn 100 years old and or die. And game number 44 on this list is 7 Wonders from 2010. This is designed by Antoine Bauza, and published by Repos?
Repos Production.
Oh, okay, yes.
Just like Concept. It's a Repos kind of episode. 7 Wonders
So why is it on the
here.
list?
Thanks for asking, Tom. This one's on the list because of drafting. Specifically, pass around the cards, closed hand kind of drafting. This is a fundamental aspect of a lot of games, and you see it in a lot of places. But if you ask most people, what's the most like drafting game? What's the drafting game? Do you have any recommendations for a drafting game? They would probably tell you 7 Wonders. It's arguable if 7 Wonders should be the go-to drafting game. Mm-hmm. I think you and I have cooled on it a little bit, Tom. Sometimes you feel like the game is kind of on rails. It's also really dependent on how people are playing around the table. And I don't mean like, oh, you got to read their moves. I mean more like, are the people around the table playing optimally, or are they completely blind to the things that you're going for? And I think those are some of the weaknesses of the game. You and I really like Wonderful World. That would be probably our go-to drafting game of this sorts. Other really high recommendations are like Fairy Tale, Sushi Go, Point Salad even. Well, Point Salad's kind of a different flavor, no pun intended. But you can't deny the influence and I guess presence of Seven Wonders. There's a reason it's the one that people think about first. And I would argue that it's a pretty good introduction. I feel like this game's a pretty consistent hit when people haven't been exposed to this mechanism yet, and then they get it to the table. Whereas Sushi Go, as we've talked about in the past, can kind of flop despite being a little bit more intuitive to play.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it makes it into this spot.
So I think the thing that Seven Wonders does that really works for being like an introduction to this type of system is it's all about the cards. There are no other components really other than the coins. Like, I guess, yeah, there's only one system.
There's your
in the base
board,
game.
but I mean, the board acts as like pseudo cards too. So
Yeah. What am I trying to say here? Like, there's only one resource outside of the cards. I get technically there's like the point trackers for the military, but that's just like a way to keep track of, your a status, right? It's not an actual resource that you spend. The coins being the only resource outside of the cards is what makes this game, I think, a better introduction than It's a Wonderful World, for example. It's a Wonderful World's got so much more busyness going on. It's such a level 2. This game's level 1 idness. Arguably, we've talked about Sushi Go in the past. Like, maybe Sushi Go is like the true sort of level 1 of card drafting style games. But I think Seven Wonders does a lot of things right that Sushi Go does not.
Sushi Go has its followers and definitely like people enjoy it. But like, I feel like Seven Wonders is probably going to scratch that itch a little bit more if it ends up being your jam.
The biggest hurdle, I think, of Seven Wonders is that if for people who've not been exposed to a lot of games, like I'd say ideally you've kind of played Dominion with someone before you've played Seven Wonders with them. I'd say almost at like the very, very least, because people who have not had their consciousness raised to the world of board gaming, this one is a lot to really take in.
Yeah, I agree. If you love this game, though, and you haven't played the other ones, highly recommend seeking out Fairy Tale or Wonderful World.
Yeah, definitely Wonderful World. If you're like, I've played a lot of Seven Wonders, I don't, what else can compare? Probably that one.
That was Seven Wonders.
Enough yapping, enough of that bullshit, whatever the fuck we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, whatever kind of nonsense type shit. It's time for some old news, old games. That's the show. That's the reason we do the show, right? Talking about old things. All has to be old. If it's not old, then what's the point?
That's what I say about cheese.
What is older in society than the rules, the law? The main topic of this week's episode, the real meat and potatoes, rule books. What are they about?
They're about explaining the rules. Actually,
What's
maybe
a
that's
rule?
that's a good place to start. What is the purpose of a rule book in your mind?
The rule book is the game, really. So,
well, no, I don't agree with that.
What do you mean? What's the game?
The game is what emerges on the table. Because otherwise, just reading a rule book would satiate the experience or would produce the experience. So I don't know that I'm necessarily with you there. Sorry for not yes-anding you, but like,
but nothing would emerge without the rules,
right? But you don't say like the steel bars are the building. Like, do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, the blueprint is the building. Like, it's like, no, it's the blueprint.
Sure, you got me there.
What's a better way to say what you're trying to say? The rulebook is the foundation upon which the game is built.
Yes, everything rests upon what one has written. The sacred texts that your players must unravel in order to engage in the experience that you've set out for people.
I think rule books, there are optional things that a rule book can provide, like a list of components or some lore or something. But at its core, a rule book must serve at a minimum 2 functions. One is it must teach the game so that if you don't know anything, you can still kind of pick it up. The second requirement is that it can resolve most, if not all, rules, disputes, or questions.
You know, it's funny you're saying that these are like the core conceits of rule books, but I feel like the latter, which is resolve rules, disputes, is something that legitimately almost never happens.
I'm not talking like FAQ. I'm talking like, how does this work? And then you look at the rules and it reminds you, oh, it's like this.
Yeah, how do we handle this segment? Because we started off with an almost philosophical treatise, and now we're just sort of like talking about like the details, the praxis of rule books. Yeah, they need to serve the function of telling you the rules. How should they go about that? What do you feel like has been the best rule book reading experience for you?
I prefer a layered approach. I know some folks prefer like a comprehensive look at things, but I prefer when the very first thing that I get exposed to in the rule book is the premise of the game, the overall flow of a game, which I know is very ambiguous, followed by something like turn structure, followed by the details for different actions, followed by the minutia, aka like the appendix of sorts that goes into various cards or, you know, key terms and things like that. So I like to go down the layers, like kind of like Shrek, you know, or I guess that's not Shrek, right? Kind of like onions.
Shrek has layers.
Yeah, I mean, Shrek is an ogre and he says ogres have layers. So therefore, Shrek has layers.
Yeah.
But other people like the different structure, which is like, what's the very first thing that you're going to hit in the game? And then explain all the details of that thing. And then within that, explain all the different use cases. And oftentimes you'll see this like itemized, right? You'll have like a cascading paragraph A, line 2, sequence B or something. I'm definitely in the onion category. What about you?
So one thing I've noticed a rule book has that helps me a lot in understanding the game is a description right at the top of the general idea. You know, you don't have to give me some sort of thematic preamble, but if you said something at the top that was like, players take on the role of wizards who are dueling in an academy to, you know, attain the most potion points or whatever. And it's just like, they do so by X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, okay. Like, you know,
I think you and I are resonating with the same thing. Yeah. Cause that's kind of what I was talking about is the top layer of the onion.
Yeah. Definitely got to start there. Then you get into turn structure, round structure, phase structure, whatever it needs to be, right? Depending on the complexity level. I do also think something that doesn't happen like enough in rule books is an appendix. I feel like games even that are relatively simple on the surface, or like the rule book is like 4 pages long, could benefit from like a tiny little like index or appendix of some kind where it's just like question about bonus points. Can you just tell me what paragraph sections to look at? I wish that existed more. I guess I understand for aesthetic reasons, like not doing that and overwhelming people when they get a 4-page rule book and they go, what the hell? Everything's bullet pointed with letters and numbers and there's sections and subsections. What am I reading? The Webster's Merriam-Webster dictionary? It's like, I wish somehow that wasn't the general public's reaction, because clearly that's the reason this doesn't happen more often.
How do you feel about visuals in a rule book? I mean, we both agree that visuals help.
Yeah, the more the merrier, just about. I can't think of a time where like the visual example didn't help.
I think the exception is when it's a super simple game and it ends up having like a 5-page stapled together rule book. Sometimes I'll be like, why does this game have so many rules? And then only while you're starting to read it do you realize, oh, it's because there's a bunch of big pictures.
Well, counterpoint, maybe the reason the game is so super goddamn simple is because they put super nice fucking pictures in their rule book.
I guess that's a good point, yeah. I kind of struggled to understand the rules of Llama the first time I played it because there weren't illustrations, despite it having like 3 rules. I had to like read over those rules like 5-6 times before I finally internalized it. So maybe you're onto something there.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, like I said, I'm sure it's happened out there, and I'm sure people are definitely going to yell at us in our Discord about this exact thing. But it's like, when is like the picture messed you up? Now, I could see like the image, if the image is wrong about how it's actually supposed to be played, or if like the words describing the image don't line up with what you see, then you really fucked up. Like now I'm just all sorts of confused, right? So that's, I guess, the risk you run, but just don't do that. Have an editor.
So Fantasy Flight, and I think like CGE sometimes does this too. CGE, you're still kind of on our shit list, just so you know.
It is for this reason, especially. Yeah.
The thing that's interesting about how they do things is they'll do 2 books. One is a like walk you through the core of the game, and it's supposed to be your guide to playing the first game. And then they have the comprehensive rules document, which is not as easy in terms of flow, but it covers everything, basically. Yeah. How do you feel about this format? Like Android Netrunner, for example, does this.
As a concept, great idea. I think if you're going to do this, this is what I want to see from you, the publisher who's considering doing this. Your how to play quick play guidebook should have the basic general explanation of the rules, have like, you know, the first couple of turns, example, whatever you need to give to get people in your game, get started. For a more complex game, I admire this approach. However, your comprehensive rules book needs to repeat all of the basic shit from the how to play jumpstart book.
You shouldn't have to figure out which one has the rule, or even worse, maybe you just assume that it's going to be in the comprehensive one. You don't see it, so you're like, well, I guess that's not a rule. There should never be a dependency upon both documents. Like the comprehensive one should have everything. 100% agree.
Jump in, learn how to play book should be something you can safely throw away once you understand the game. Now, you shouldn't throw it away because you might sell the game to someone else later.
Sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but just before I lose the thought, if you have examples in the rule book, how a rule would play out, totally great. Never include rules in the examples that are not covered in the actual rules. that is like a big taboo, worse than having the 2 rules documents, because you would never know to look there. It's insane that there are still games that do this.
Yes, I don't remember what it was that I ran into recently that did that exact thing, but it was totally, it's just like...
Was it Whistle Stop?
Some
game like
dude,
that. Yeah.
Don't get me started on Whistle Stop's fucking rule book. I cannot stand the wording in Whistle Stop. The last time I tried to play Whistle Stop, I was so irritated with the wording of the rules, and I spent so long reading through forum replies of the designer himself explaining it to people, and no one had the information correct. I just was like...
He was like contradicting himself too.
Yes, I literally just was like, okay, you know what? This game is like mid at best. We should stop playing it. And then I literally put it up for sale, and I'm glad it's gone. I don't know how I even ever managed to play it in retrospect. It's crazy. That's its own beast, right? And I think it does do this, but I don't remember what it was that I played recently, but it was like that exact thing where it's just like the actual explanation that I knew I had read somewhere but could not find. It was like in the italicized text underneath some example. It's just like, the reason this happens is because like the logic from this rule like overrides the logic from the other rule or something like that. It's just like, that would have been a really useful note also underneath the rule itself, perhaps, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to reference something in one place, reference it in the other. I agree. Rules ambiguities. So sometimes there's just too many things to cover, or there are things that are kind of left up to the players. Different rule books handle this in different ways. The worst example is when it's just not covered at all, because that's when you get a bunch of rules questions on BGG. The better but still not ideal version is kind of like in the side effects game that you played, where they go like, I don't know, you can just kind of play it whatever way you want and feel free to do your own rules. That's a very like mass market approach to doing these rules. I'm not a huge fan either, but it's better than nothing.
I was going to say, I appreciate being given that permission to be like, where it just says like, decide as a group how you interpret it. It's like, okay.
Jamie Stagmeyer likes to do this too. Oh yeah, you can negotiate in Scythe. Kind of just, do whatever with the negotiation. And it's like, well, thanks for the permission, but it's kind of like it feels out of place in Scythe.
Yeah.
Third way to deal with ambiguities is to have a fun thing that's pretty easy determined. And I see this very infrequently, but when I do, I really like it. So an example is Gaslands. This is like a miniatures car game. They say if there's a rules dispute, settle it in the direction of what creates the most carnage. And that's the ruling. So instead of like having a dispute or have a judge come in or check the forums, you're just like, well, this is going to destroy more stuff. So let's just do that. I really like that approach to doing this, because especially if it's not a game that you're playing in a competitive setting, it doesn't really matter, right? People are generally not going to abuse this if they're just playing casually. And so it gets rid of a lot of the headache that oftentimes comes with having a rule for everything or just not having a rule.
Yeah, I think setting some sort of like in-game direction to take everything that might come up as a question is a great way to do it.
Yeah. It has to be easily definable, because if you just say do whatever's the coolest, cool is very hard to determine. And it's probably going to be cooler for you than it is for your opponent. So.
Oh, another thing that I think is like funny. You know how like we love to talk about how PAX Premiere almost came down to a kebab cook-off?
Oh, yeah.
I really do think like more games should embrace that absurdity, because like I get that the odds of a tied game really going into the third layer of tie is unlikely. So, like, why not make that next level fun and give us a written way to determine the winner, even if it has nothing to do with the game itself, right?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe you can play my subconscious for a second. I'm struggling with this cognitive dissonance that I've just realized based on your comment. I really, really find it funny and enjoyable when a game does what you just described, which is have like a third tiebreaker that feels like really wacky or absurd. I hate it when there is a wacky or absurd way to determine first player. What is the difference between those two? Because like, when they're like, the person who most recently traveled, gets to be first in this traveling game, or the person who most recently spent money gets to be the first player in this money game. Like, that stuff makes my eyes roll to the back of my head. But do a kebab cook-off if you're still tied. I'm like, yes, I love it. Why? Is it just frequency of exposure?
My guess is one of two things. One, yeah, you've seen a kooky determined first player rule so often that your hipster bone is like, starting to itch. And so you can't like it anymore, right? Maybe that's what's happening. That's the easy explanation.
Because it was too mainstream.
That you're not a hipster anymore because it's too popular to be a hipster. Exactly, right? I actually want to give you the benefit of the doubt on this, so I'm just being kind of facetious. But right. The reality is, I think when it's a determined start player thing, it's like it's an eye roll, because it's just kind of like you're making us have to do work to even get started with your game. Right?
Oh, yes. It's the level of investment.
Yeah, exactly. And then like if it's a tiebreaker thing, now it's like really funny that you can like work really hard to tie with another player just to get yourselves to cook kebabs. It's like you could cook kebabs anytime, but the idea that you're cooking kebabs because like PAX Premiere told you to is like really funny, but it's something you have to work for. So it becomes a game inside of the game where there's an arbitrary obstacle that is set, and there's rules that have to be followed in order to get yourself to that achievement, right? That's what a game is. And so it's a game within a game. But when it's we determine first player by remembering who, most recently visited Ireland, and it's like none of us have actually been to Ireland. It's just kind of like, well, fucking, okay, thanks for that. Remind me how I never get out of the country, huh? Like, now that you're bringing this up, and because I know I've said before that I like that that someone at least writes a kooky one if they can't, instead of just pick at random. I do think it's like either you have components in your game that can enable picking the start player, and you describe, a sort of like mini game. That would be like the ideal way, is that like almost like in Motainai, how it's like whatever comes first alphabetically.
Yeah,
right.
I love
that's
Motainai.
A good system.
Yeah.
Short of that, it should be something that applies universally, I think, and is still a little bit low random, or it applies like it's impossible for it to occur to anyone. And so like the joke is just like whoever last, took a bite of the sun or something like that. Like that would be better. But I feel like this idea where it's just like, every time you play a game, it's going to be like the person who had like one family reunion or wedding in Ireland, and like they're always going to get to go first now. Is like that. It feels I think is annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the level investment for me is the key. That you mentioned that at one moment. With the tiebreaker, it's very rarely going to happen, and it happens after the game is resolved. With the start player, you do it every time you play the game. And it's the very first thing you do before you get to play the game. So if you have to like figure out who went to Ireland, you have two paths, right? Either you ignore it and it's just like a silly thing in the rule books, or you have to go, so who most recently went to Ireland? Oh, nobody? Oh, I guess we have to do a random one anyway. And I think that's the problem with those. It takes more time than just randomly determining the player, and it's less ideal than randomly determining the player. And that's why it frustrates me.
It's kind of sets the tone how you pick the starting player.
Yeah.
And so if the game is not inviting you into its component space, or it's not making you like, I think, engage with its theme from the beginning, it's like, why are you doing this? Because it ends up just feeling like a distraction, or it's just mildly annoying.
The first player thing reminds me of the 404 pages. Oopsie whoopsie, you got to a wrong page that doesn't exist anymore, or maybe it never existed. We're so sorry. And it's like, oh my goodness, please just tell me how to randomly determine player.
Yeah. Like at this point, I would just take like emphasis tag error 404. Like, it's like play the classics at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting pretty fixated on this.
For sure.
Can I throw a really spicy one at you?
Okay.
That might actually be based. I think that board games that are heavier, right? We're talking like 3.5 weight or above on BGG.
Okay.
Should come with 2 copies of the rules. I'd be willing to incur the additional cost, I guess, publishers, personally.
Right. You're already paying $80 for this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right.
Minimum.
It's an Eagle Griffin
minimum.
game. Like, we're already paying $90 out the wazoo. Like, just add an extra $5 or $10. Having to pass around the like Kanban EV rulebook is like, it like hurts. I know that like these companies have started to do really comprehensive reference sheets, like multiple page reference sheets. I think that's a step in the right direction. I would still want to have just straight up 2 rule books in the box. I also don't work in the industry, so I don't know how much that actually tacks on in terms of feasibility and just production cost too. But like there's nothing more annoying than like, oh, okay, this game's complicated. That's totally fine. But like, wait, can you pass that over so I can see the rule too? Okay, now I need it. Can you pass it to me? Like,
no, totally.
It feels like so much time could be saved and so much fun could be made if you just included 2 copies instead of 1.
Yeah, 1 copy goes to whoever's supposedly teaching the game, and the other copy goes to whatever player is constantly undermining the person teaching the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I actually do think it could be good, though. You know what? I'm going to certify your spicy take as based.
Hell
All right,
yeah.
hit me with another one so I can determine based or cringe. I haven't used my cringe stamp yet.
I think that the count of components should be at the end.
Based.
I like that it's present. I just don't care. Put it on the second to last page.
Yes.
This is a very normie take, but like every rule book should have a reference sheet on the back. If the back of your book just has the WizKids logo, what are you doing?
Please put like a brief rules summary, rules reference. Mostly like if your game has multiple phases or steps or rounds or like the setup varies for some reason, anything that can create like shorthand for me to either set up or play your game in less time next time is very appreciated. It makes me so sad when I get to like the back page of a rule book and it's just like the butt of the character on the front of the rule book. Like, so they, you know what I mean? They just like gave us that character's backside.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Leave the butt there as long as like
just have it in the background, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like
as a
faded out
watermark
sepia tone.
for the rules summary. In addition to that, though, the thing with like the components at the end of the book, I really like that because like it makes it feel a lot more like a Lego book for one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But also like it drives me crazy when like a rule book has component listings, but does not have like a subsection for components that they've decided are like grouped together. For example, 104 cards. And then there's like 4 types of cards. Yeah. It's like, please tell me like how many of each, you know, card type. Yeah.
Also, real estate wise, it doesn't hurt at all to include parentheses, solo mode only next to components. So please highlight if a component is solo mode only so that it makes it very clear. And we're not like, where does this piece go on the board? I can't tell based on the setup instructions.
Yes. Yes. This is like the biggest thing in my life right now is when there's like fucking random pieces and they're not listed in the setup. Please have a blurb that says like, if you're looking at these pieces and you're like, what the fuck is this? Those are for the solo variant. See that on page 97. Like,
I'm pretty sure Michael Walker mentioned that on some episode of Swag. So I want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit's due. I'm pretty sure
I'm pretty sure Tom Bassel has said this. Like everyone has said this.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think
you shouldn't be doing this anymore. And yet it still happens.
Maybe publishers don't listen to podcasts.
Based on my experience, that does seem to be the case.
If you're a publisher and you listen to this, say, I'm a publisher and I listen to you, and send it to us.
Say it out loud now in your car.
We'll literally give you a shout out. Hashtag not sponsored, but like,
oh yeah, for all the clout that's worth. We'll give you our Board Game Geek micro badge, okay? That's like an 8 geek gold value right there.
Quickly on lore, I think lore is fine. I definitely prefer lore as a separate book. I do enjoy reading it, but it's both more annoying when I'm reading the lore and more annoying when I'm reading the rules if they're combined, especially if it's more than a page.
I'm not sure. It totally depends. The thing with the lore, right, is like most of the time, like all the flavor a game needs is like one paragraph at the beginning that tells you like the story that got us to where we are. I think a really good example of this, by the way, is like the Game of Thrones, the board game rule book. I think that one's really sick. It like briefly describes kind of like the beginning of the first book of Song of Ice and Fire. And then it just goes like, and now we are going to play the game.
Yeah, I know Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? Tires, and Lannisters. Lannisters always pay their debts. I know that. Yep.
The Tyres versus the Lannisters. That's what you're saying.
And Hrothgar holds the guard. One more thing. Credits. Accreditation. I mean, we say this a lot, but I'll just say it one more time. If you are a designer, it is greatly appreciated if you find at least a paragraph's worth of designer notes somewhere at the end. And you do give a little shout out to who inspired you, whether it be important events or a person or a specific game. People, A, enjoy reading those, and B, it's just common decency, right? Nothing is created in a vacuum. So, but then
what was that game called?
Import Export.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say you're still salty about that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
I am.
You weren't even like the guy that designed it, and you're mad. It's great. It's true, though. It's true.
Just shout out to Carl Chuddick, please.
Reprint, import, export. Tell Carl Chuddick how thankful you are that he exists. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
He needs it.
He's a beloved alien who has blessed us with amazing games. The least you could do is give him tribute in your rules.
The reality is, like, I think we're treading some well-trodden ground, frankly. I mean, it's just like this is what people come around for, right? They want to hear us gripe about how bad life is right now and how much board gaming sucks and how we should go back to the old days when games were good.
I feel like we have a reputation for being negative Nancy's, and I firmly disagree.
Well, I think you're wrong.
I think that we are fair. And I'm not a subscriber in the whole like, but your content should be positive. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Like, I think in life, maybe that's a good way to hold yourself as a human being when you're like talking to others in person or online. But like when you're like specifically talking about like an art form from a critical lens, like you should provide honest feedback. You know, it should be constructive. You shouldn't just be poo-pooing things. But like, I think that we're generally fair. We explain why when we think something's bad, and we are pretty happy and positive about things that we do appreciate.
Maybe. I don't know. I personally recognize that I have an addiction to hater juice, and step one is admitting you have a problem.
I'm still in denial.
I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening to all of you wonderful, wonderful listeners out there. We love you. Keep coming back. Thank you especially to Michael, Tyler, and Devon, and Josh of the Boise RainBeaus for that sweet segue music. And thank you especially to Bonehouse for letting us use your song Rot as our opening theme.
If you're loving the cast, share it with a friend or on Reddit or on BGG. You can also reach out to us directly at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All this and more available in the show notes. And if you like what we're doing and want to make more of it happen, consider subscribing to us on Patreon. You'll get access to bonus content, Discord. You can even hear the unedited episodes of this podcast, which this one is going to be a rough one. So apologize to the patrons.
You can hear unedited and a few days early.
Tom, do you know what we're doing next week?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned our Discord, Kenny, because this one comes to us from Rich from the Discord. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to offload your games, how to get them the fuck out of your house, how to get rid of them. Just be gone.
Just burn them. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.